consistent with the LDS faith, but are changing. And so the LDS Church is changing away from them. I think over time that will happen. So if polygamy became legal tomorrow, polygamy is not I don't believe polygamy was ever here for the purpose of satisfying men's desires or women's desires. I believe polygamy is a spiritual thing. It's an eternal concept, like the Ten Commandments. There's a higher rule and a higher law. And like I said, just because somebody makes something legal doesn't make it right. I don't know that the church would practice polygamy because it's legal any more than they would because it's not legal. I think the church will do what the church thinks is right when they think it's right.
Now we're going to jump back to another question that I'm sure you knew was going to be here. Someone asked, can you tell me about the supposed magic powers of the undergarments?
Gladly. The garments are two pieces, tops and bottoms. I'll dispel some rumors right now. You do not have to wear your garments when having sex. They do not have special holes cut in them to have sex. That's all garbage. I hear that all the time. It drives me nuts. So that's all garbage. I have a wife. She wears garments, and I guarantee there's nothing about that. The bottoms look like boxer briefs. The tops can be bought two ways. One looks like a regular white T-shirt, and the other one has a dipping neckline. I don't know how to explain it. It's just kind of a dipping neckline, kind of like you'd see in old school, like a tank top. There you go. It's like a tank top with sleeves. The reason we wear the garments, and the women's garments are the same, by the way. And yes, they do sell green ones for military personnel. And when women are nursing, the tops of the women's tops have special flaps that will open so they can nurse their babies. The garment is the first thing you wear. You don't wear anything under it. It is like underwear that way. Garments are sacred to us because they remind us of the commitments that we've made to our spouses and to God. The reason they're called magical is because we believe that by wearing them, it protects us. Not necessarily literally protects us, but it's a constant reminder as I walk through my day, like a wedding ring, that I have made certain commitments in my life to live my life a certain way. That's why I wear my garments. No other reason. Just as I wear a wedding ring, it reminds me that, not that I need to be reminded because I love my wife, but it reminds me and tells everybody else, hey, I'm married. I've made a commitment to my spouse. I live under those rules because I've chosen to. Garments are the same thing. And as for them being magical, again, we believe that they'll protect you. If God wants you to be protected, you'll be protected whether you're wearing garments or not. Garments are, the metaphor protection there. And several years ago, Marriott, J.W. Marriott, the owner of Marriott Hotels, he's a member, talked about he was on a boat that was on fire once, and everything burned up to his garment line and then stopped. Nothing burned beyond that. I've heard of people that have been shot and the bullet stopped at the garment. I've heard people were stabbed and the garment protected them. I believe in intervention from God in any aspect of your life. Falling off a cliff and suddenly a tree pops out and God saves you. I believe God can save you with or without your garments on. And so, because when you do sports, typically they don't wear garments. Steve Young talked about it when he was a football player. He did not wear garments on the football field. When I go swimming, I don't wear garments. When my wife goes swimming, she doesn't wear garments. She wears a bathing suit. When you take a shower, you don't wear your garments. I hear that one a lot too. I guess I'd be about the sum up of what garments are all about.
You said that it's part of also showing your commitment, which makes me think about divorce. Does that exist in the church, and how is that handled? I'm from a Catholic background, so we have the whole annulment process where basically if you can prove that one of the parties or it wasn't entered into under good faith, then it is just removed. Again, that's a very rudimentary summary of annulment. How does that work within your church?
No, great question. I have lots of divorced people within my family. Deal with that often. I know lots of divorced people. Several have remarried. Within the LDS faith, again, we have the eternal perspective of marriage. This life is a life where we are on this earth to prove ourselves worthy to live with God in the eternities. If you divorce, that's a legal issue between you and your spouse, and it's a governmental issue. It is not a religious issue. The only time it becomes religious is when the person wants to remarry. You have been sealed. The seal is not broken within the LDS faith just because you have a divorce. My brother-in-law just got divorced from his wife. All kinds of reasons why, but they're still sealed as spouses within the LDS faith. The question everybody asks him, well, if you're divorced here, why would you want to be married in the next life? I don't know that you will be. I don't know that it's going to happen. I know that I have a brother-in-law that divorced my sister-in-law, and he wanted to get remarried, and he did. She wanted to get remarried, and the church broke the sealing so she could get remarried to another man. So her and her new spouse wanted to get sealed within the LDS temple, and so they petitioned the church, and the church said, yes, that is your wish. so shall it be. And the seal was broken between her and her first husband, and now she's still to her new husband. But again, marriage, in my mind, the eternal aspect of it kind of gives reason to try harder at your marriage than typically till death do you part. I think in this world, my opinion, as I look at the world today, with so many divorces and so many breakups and so many people that are living together but aren't married, marriage has been played out to it's a dating game. We're going to be dating for the next 15 years, and then we'll get divorced and find somebody else. Or this marriage isn't working for me. Let's split up our personal belongings and move on. For me, it's eternal. And so as I look at it, I think I made a commitment to God and my wife that I would give every effort I can to make this marriage work. Not just my wife, but to God. And so I have a different view of it. And I think the LDS faith really pushes that view as you're marrying forever, not just till death do you part, not just for convenience. It's eternal, and it has an eternal consequence. And so we take marriage very, very seriously within the LDS faith. It's important, I think, in my mind, for people to look at it that way. And so when divorce happens, it's painful for everybody. Divorce sucks, but it is a reality. And the LDS faith doesn't require anything special from you to file for divorce. If you're divorced, then you're divorced. And you can remarry civilly 10 more times if you want. Church doesn't care. It's between you and your spouse. But the sealing is where the church gets involved because that's a religious ritual. So that does change. But as for the actual certificate, get divorced, get remarried, Mormon church won't stop you. And they won't require anything special from you.
I hope that all of you listening have been getting as much out of this interview with Keith as I was able to. I actually was lucky enough to grow up around people who were a part of the Mormon church, but there's always more to learn and different nuances of the faith. And I feel like I have become much more intelligent talking to Keith. I hope that you will tune in again next week to part 2 of this interview. He answers more of your questions, talks about the Mormon welfare program. He talks about their beliefs on heaven and the idea or the commonly heard rumor of Mormons having their own worlds, or the belief that they become gods in heaven. So more of those rumors are addressed in the interview next week. I probably don't say this enough, but I appreciate you listening. And if you have been enjoying the podcast, we've now been going for a month, please take the time to share it with your friends, loved ones, neighbors, enemies, anybody who might want to listen to it. We also would very much appreciate any reviews that you can give through your podcast app. Definitely check out the website and look to see what other upcoming interviews we have and submit your questions. I can't tell you how great it was preparing for the interview with Keith to have so many of you involved in that process with questions. So you can mull over what you've learned so far about the Mormon faith this week and be sure to tune in next week for part 2 of our interview with Keith.